Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the backstory. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are happy to inform you that we're on the road to 2,000 subscribers. And if you're new here, kindly hit that subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified when we post a new video. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Law Society of Kenya has called for countrywide peaceful demonstrations to protest President William Ruto's attacks against the judiciary. And President Ruto had already vowed to disobey court orders that he presumably think do not favor government projects. And that is why the Law Society of Kenya has called upon its members countrywide to turn up in large numbers so as to protest against these calls by the president.
The Law Society would be organizing a countrywide peaceful demonstrations where we will read and affirm the oath that each and every one of advocates of the High Court of Kenya took.
We therefore are calling upon all members of the Law Society of Kenya to don purple ribbons throughout the coming week.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, after making that call, President Ruto still made the very statements that he's been making against the judiciary. So we look at why President Ruto is so determined in putting a lot of pressure in the judiciary and why what the Law Society of Kenya is doing right now is the right way to go. So let's listen into what President Ruto said after he had been condemned by the Law Society of Kenyans, the opposition, and political leaders in the country. He still came out and said that the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, had a budget which was merely or specifically set for bribing judges.
Sasa mimi nataka niwaambie nyinyi ambao Mungu kotini mnataka kusimamisha hii kazi. Please, tafadhali, kuweni na utu, kuweni na ubinadamu. Nyinyi mko na kazi, watoto wenu wako na kazi. Hawa watoto wa mama mboga na mahasla hawana kazi. Na mimi ni wakili wao. Na mimi siwezi kuongana kotini. Badala ya kuongana kotini, tutamaliza ufisadi kotini.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, remember, President Ruto was a vice president in the former regime. So if he's telling Kenyans that there was a budget for bribing the judiciary, it means he was part of it. And if he was part of it, then it means he has some evidence that he can show to Kenyans. So what he needs to do is to show Kenyans the evidence that he has against the judiciary, which he has not gone ahead and given Kenyans. So we can call this as political propaganda. He's trying to malign the judiciary in a court of public opinion, where people are emotional, people do not look at evidence that is presented to them. What matters is who appeals to the emotions of the people. And that is why President Ruto is so determined in maligning the judiciary in the court of public opinion. So what does he want to achieve? President Ruto has realized that, one, he might fail in achieving or in fulfilling the promises. So he wants to use the judiciary as a scapegoat, such that in case he fails to achieve or to succeed in implementing his projects, then he will have the judiciary to blame by telling Kenyans that, oh, I had a very good plan, but I have been stopped by the litigations that have been taken to courts. That is why I have been unable to. The second issue that comes to my mind is the fact that it's something that we've talked about, is the fact that President Ruto wants to capture the judiciary. He wants to instill fear in the judiciary. By instilling fear, he knows that all the policies that he's come up with in his Kenya Kwanza administration are not popular with Kenyans. and he's not used the right procedure in executing some of these policies. Take, for example, the housing fund and the universal health policy. According to the law, we should have gone through public participation, then it goes to parliament and all that. But William Ruto and his handlers have tried to bypass all this. And when it was taken to the court of law, the court pronounced itself by saying that the procedure that was used in implementing this wasn't lawful. So he knows that if he has to succeed in implementing some of the policies which are not popular on the ground, then he has to muzzle the judiciary, because already he has captured the executive. So the only stumbling block to him is the judiciary. And the third one, he wants to cripple the judiciary so as to capture power, so that whatever pronouncements he makes becomes law in Kenya. But this is not the case, because according to the 2010 constitution, which was pronounced in 2010, there are rules and regulations that that the president himself has to go through in order to implement some of the policies. And remember, if he goes ahead and does what is talked about, not obeying the court orders, then the president himself would kind of have impeached himself in a way, because he swore to protect the Constitution of Kenya. So if he leads by not obeying court orders, then it means he's telling Kenyans not to obey court orders as well. Then what will this lead? This will lead to anarchy. So if you go back to the third issue, which is president trying to muzzle the judiciary so as to capture power, already the president has, William Ruto has captured the executive. So now that he has captured parliament, he has watered down the roles of the attorney general. The only stumbling block remaining right now is the judiciary. So he's trying to put a lot of pressure on the judiciary so that judges and judicial officers might kind of feel intimidated to make lawful judgments when it comes to orders, when it comes to matters that touch on government projects. Some of these government projects that are being implemented have been questioned by Kenyans. Kenyans feel like a lot of pressure is being put on them financially so as to implement some of William Ruto's projects. But what they should have done is to look at ways in which they can present some of these policies, some of these projects in a lawful way. So when we come back to the Law Society of Kenya, the Law Society of Kenya has done a very good thing, and they have made a very bold move towards calling on their members to do peaceful demonstrations against the president's remarks. Remember, the Law Society of Kenya remains like one of the most active civil society groups in Kenya. Civil society groups were muzzled out by the former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Uhuru Ruto when they came into power. If you remember, during the fight for democracy, multi-party democracy in Kenya, the civil society was very, very active then. But they were active then. During President Kibaki's era, they were also very active. But when Uhuru Ruto came in, they cut down their fundings, and civil society has remained very, very inactive for the last 10 to 15 years. Now, if he manages to muzzle out the Law Society of Kenya, the Kenya Human Rights, and all those other groups, then it will mean that William Ruto will have absolute power, because he will have captured the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, the opposition, and the civil society. So whatever pronouncements he will be making will be law in Kenya and no one will question him. So whatever the Law Society of Kenya is doing right now, I think will give Kenyans power. It will re-energize Kenyans to tell them that, hey, it's not lost. We can still stand up to a presidency that does not want to obey the law. So it will re-energize Kenyans. It will re-energize the civil service. And I think it will also give the judiciary some hope that all is not lost. They can still stand up to the executive and make lawful orders and decisions that will protect the interests of Kenyans. So ladies and gentlemen, we will be watching whatever will be happening throughout the day and keep it here so that you get updated on everything that will be happening during the peaceful demonstrations within the country. So if you're new here still, you can also support us by hitting that subscribe button, the notification bell down below, so that you can be notified always when we post a new video. As I had said, we're on the road to 2,000 subscribers. Support us, let us get to 2,000 subscribers this week and next week. Until next time, goodbye.